Hey guys, it's Solbyte, and today I'm going to be going over header files and how we can use them for classes. So firstly, what exactly is a header file? So it works in the same way just as these header files do, right? These include IOStream and include string. These are both header files. These are files that have all of the functionality for things like cout and creating string variables, right? So in the same way, we can create header files to kind of make our main code, like our main program, a lot more readable and a lot more organized, right? So I'm going to kind of show you guys how we can do that today using two different files, the header file and the C++ file that has the implementation of that header file. So I'll show you guys that here in a second. But firstly, we are starting off with this player class, right? It's got two private members here and a print info function. So, pretty simple, nothing too crazy. I'm actually gonna go ahead and add a constructor as well, just so we can assign the members to, some kind of value. So let's do name equals Solbyte, and we will do power equals 99 because of course. All right, so perfect, there we go. So we have a constructor and we have a print info void function here. And what we want to do, I mean, this is a very simple class, but I mean, if you go back to some of my videos that I've done on object-oriented programming, I mean, you can see, especially in my polymorphism videos, just how big these classes can really get and how complicated they can really get. So what we want to do is we want to sometimes, and it's great practice to do all the time, if I'm being honest, to separate your classes in a header file. That way the main file can kind of just be a lot more organized, and you can just have everything you need to create the objects and be able to do whatever it is that you need to do with those objects. So anyways, let's go ahead and start talking about what these things are. So first we have a header file. It's going to be denoted by .h. And the header file is basically just the blueprint for the class. All right, so same way that a class is a blueprint for an object, right? I mean, we're still creating a blueprint, and the blueprint is here in the header file. Now in the C++ file over here, this is the implementation of that blueprint from the header file, right? So we're going to actually be adding the functionality and how the class, or the functions of that class should behave, right? So let's go ahead and kind of get into it. All right, so firstly, or I guess I should, so firstly, let's actually cover something very important about header files. We need to actually tell the compiler that we want to include this header file and that we want to go ahead and define the class, right? So the way that we do this is we use these things called header guards, which are going to be if and def, right? And then we'll use define. All right, and for both of these, we need to add the name of the file with all caps and using an underscore as the dot. We'll do player.h and player.h once again. All right, so perfect. And we still get this red line here because we are missing the endif, right? So we need to add that at the bottom of the code. We don't have to rewrite the file name for this one. We just need to kind of explicitly state the end of the definition, if that makes sense. So anyways, yeah. And our blueprint for the class will be encapsulated in these header guards. So very important that you kind of understand that and that you remember to add these. I, for some reason, forget a lot. I don't know how, but I do. So if you do, it's fine. But yeah, very big part and very crucial. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to copy this class in here in the header file, right? So, and what I want to do is I want to kind of show you guys firstly that we can also add header files into this one too, right? So we can include string, for instance, right? And then I'll get rid of the red line here for string, or if I denote it properly or use the right syntax, there we go. So that gets rid of the red line there. And if I did the IOStream I'd also get rid of the cout as well. But I'm not going to do that because the big thing about creating the blueprint, right? Because this, I mean, this is the blueprint for the class. We define what private member functions we have. We define what public functions we have, or sorry, not private member functions, private member variables that we have, and the public functions that we have for this class, right? But the big thing is we actually don't need to add this implementation of these functions, right? In fact, that's kind of what this this file will be for, is to show, to add the functionality for these functions, right? But for here, we just need to state that it exists, that we have implementation, or that, we will implement it here in this file. But, as far as here, like we know that these are a part of the player class. This is the blueprint, and we will have these functions for the player class. It doesn't have to be defined here. We just have to kind of state that it is, that it is a part of the class. So, and that's about it for the header file. We, mostly just define that the functions do exist and that we do intend to add functionality for it, and whatever other member variables we want to add. And yeah, so the reason that we do this, the reason that we don't define it here, is because it actually makes this header file a little bit more readable. Because these, classes can get really, really big, and there can be so many different functions for what you want to do for a certain object. And so having just a list, right, just a long list of all the functions that you need, separated by comments or whatever, having a very long list of all of that is very beneficial, and just kind of organizes it a lot better. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to add the implementation. So in order to implement the functionality for that class, we're going to go ahead and include the header file. And the way that we do that is we use these quotation marks instead of the normal brackets that we would use for IOStream or string, right? And so we'll go ahead and do the quotation marks, and we'll do player.h. All right, so now we are including this file here in this file, right? Just the same way that we would include the functionality for IOStream in this file, right? We're just including it. So we're going to include that. And now what we can do is we can now actually start to add the implementation of these functions. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and do let's do the constructor first. So the way that we do that is we're going to write out the class name, which in our case is player, and we're going to add 2 colons, and then the name of the function, which is player because it's a constructor, and then we can add the implementation. So we can say that we want the name to equal Solbyte, and we can add that we want the power to equal 99. Perfect. So in this way, we are implementing the functionality for these for these functions. And as you can see, we actually, this one right here has a line because it says that it's missing the function definition for print info. But there was one over here, but it went away because we have now defined the definition, the implementation of that function. So, and yeah, just using this kind of syntax up here, we're just stating, we're simply just stating that this is the class, and that this is the function in the class that we want to add functionality for. So we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing for print info. So we're going to do void player : print info. All right, so I had to add the IOStream so that way I can do the cout, but now we can do the implementation of print info. We can do cout, we'll do name, and then we'll do the endl, and then we will do another cout for the power and another nl. Perfect. All right, so now we have the print info function able to actually print the name and then the power. Okay, I had to add the the std syntax because I didn't want to use the using namespace std like I usually do in most of my videos. So if this confuses you, don't let it. It's just just how it works. So anyways, But yeah, so now we have the implementation of this player class for these functions that were defined in the blueprint in this header file. So now it can all come together here. So the way that we can start this is we can go ahead and get rid of string, because string, the include string, is already here in the player header file. So it would be kind of redundant to include string again if we're already going to include the player.h. So we're going to include player.h, and as you can see, that red line went away because now it recognizes that we are creating an object called Solbyte, and we are creating it with the player class that is defined here in the header file, and the implementation is defined here in the C++ file. All right, so now we can actually run this program and see that everything should be working properly, but very big point here, make sure that you also compile the player.cpp, the implementation file for the class, because of course we need that to be compiled in order for any of this, to make sense. So we're gonna go ahead and compile both and go ahead and run this, and we get Solbyte and 99. Perfect. So yeah, that's basically it for header files, and that's also basically it for object-oriented programming. Hopefully these videos have been helpful. I'm going to create one more video that will be a code along, and I'm going to create a text-based RPG, and I actually look forward to that. That sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm going to do it using everything that we've learned in these tutorials, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation, just everything. So make sure to stick around for that if you'd like to. I'm going to have that uploaded hopefully within the next coming weeks. Yeah, I think I'm going to add a face cam too, just so you guys can kind of see, how I'm thinking and the process that I'm going through. And so yeah, look forward to that. And then yeah, then we'll be done with object-oriented programming. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed these videos. For my next series, I'm going to do the standard library. We're going to touch on that and go from there. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm going to leave some resources in the description. And other than that, if you guys have any other questions, please let me know in the comments. And that's about it. Thanks for watching.